6 months after the Great Battle, New Eden had become something no one had expected. The planet was now home to the first truly integrated human-alien colony in history. Alex walked through the main settlement, watching human children play with young versions of Shadow's people. The alien youngsters were only 4 feet tall and had not yet grown their full armor, making them look almost cute despite their claws and teeth. They played games of hide-and-seek among the prefabricated buildings. While their parents and human colonists worked side by side, Shadow had become much more than Alex's companion. The massive creature now served as the official ambassador between the two species, helping translate not just language but culture and customs. It had learned to operate basic human technology and could even use a computer tablet to communicate, with pictures and symbols. "Alex," called Dr. Phillips from her research station. "Shadow's back from patrol, and it brought something." Alex hurried over to find Shadow waiting with what looked like a small metal device in its claws. The creature made a series of clicks and growls that Alex had learned to recognize as excitement. "What did you find, big guy?" Alex asked, taking the device carefully. The object was clearly alien technology, but not from Shadow's people. It had the same organic look as the insect ships they had been fighting. Phillips scanned it with her equipment, while Shadow watched with interest. "It's some kind of communication device," Phillips reported. "Shadow must have found it in the jungle. This could help us understand our enemies better." Shadow made more sounds and gestured toward the deep jungle. Alex had learned to read the creature's body language over the months. Shadow was trying to tell them something important. "There are more of these devices out there," Alex translated. "Shadow thinks the insects are planning something big." Before Phillips could respond, alarms started blaring throughout the settlement. Lisa's voice came over the loudspeakers from the communications center. "All personnel to emergency stations. We have multiple contacts incoming from orbit. This is not a drill." Alex and Phillips ran to the command center, Shadow loping alongside, them with fluid grace. Through the windows, they could see dark shapes descending from the sky. But these ships were different from before. They were massive, easily 10 times larger than anything the insects had brought previously. Colonel Morrison was already coordinating the defense when they arrived. "We count at least 50 ships," he reported grimly. "They're landing all around the planet. This isn't just an attack. It's a full invasion." Shadow studied the tactical display, then made urgent vocalizations. Similar calls echoed from the jungle as its people responded. Within minutes, reports came in from all over the planet. The alien predators were emerging from hidden strongholds everywhere, ready to defend their world. But this time, the enemy was prepared for them. The insect warriors that poured from the ships were bigger and better armored than before. They carried new weapons that fired energy beams instead of acid. Worst of all, they had air support. Flying creatures that looked like mechanical wasps swept through the sky, bombing anything that moved. The human defenses were quickly overwhelmed. Their weapons were effective against the ground forces, but they had no answer for the aerial assault. Within hours, half the settlement was in ruins. Alex found himself in a bunker with a group of colonist families, including several children. The sounds of battle raged outside while Shadow stood guard at the entrance, its yellow eyes scanning for threats. "Are we going to die?" asked a little girl named Emma. She was only 6 years old and had arrived on New Eden with her parents just 2 months ago. Before Alex could answer, Shadow moved away from the entrance and approached the frightened child. The massive predator lowered its great head until it was at Emma's eye level. Very gently, it nuzzled against her small hand. Emma giggled, despite her fear. "It's like a really big puppy," she said. Shadow had indeed become like a loyal pet, but one with the power to tear apart armies. The creature had learned to be gentle with humans, especially children. But Alex knew that gentleness hid a warrior's heart. The attack on their bunker came without warning. Insect soldiers blasted through the wall with their energy weapons, filling the space with smoke and debris. Parents screamed and children cried as the aliens advanced with weapons raised. Shadow's reaction was instant and devastating. The creature moved faster than Alex had ever seen, becoming a whirlwind of claws and teeth. In less than 30 seconds, every insect warrior was dead. But Shadow had been hit by multiple energy beams and was badly wounded. "Shadow!" Alex rushed to the creature's side. Burns covered its armor and green alien blood was pooling on the floor. Shadow looked at Alex with dimming yellow eyes. The creature was dying, and they both knew it. With tremendous effort, Shadow reached out and touched Alex's face with one clawed finger. The touch was so light it felt like a whisper. "Stay with me," Alex pleaded. "Don't give up." But Shadow's eyes were closing. The great creature that had become his closest friend was slipping away. Phillips appeared beside them with her medical scanner and a case full of experimental drugs. "I've been studying Shadow's biology," she said urgently. "I think I can help, but I need to try something that's never been done before." Working frantically, Phillips injected Shadow with a combination of human medical nanites and genetic material from the creature's own people. It was a desperate gamble that could save Shadow's life or kill it instantly. For long minutes, nothing happened. Then Shadow's eyes flickered open. The yellow glow was dimmer than before, but it was there. The creature was alive. More than that, something fundamental had changed. As Shadow recovered over the following days, Alex noticed that his own senses seemed sharper. He could hear sounds that had been too quiet before. He could see better in the dark. Most strangely, he could sense Shadow's emotions even when the creature was far away. Phillips's medical scans revealed the truth. The nanites had created a biological link between Alex and Shadow. They were no longer just friends. They were partners, in a way that no human and alien had ever been before. This bond proved crucial in the final battle against the insect invasion. Alex could coordinate human tactics with Shadow's knowledge of alien strategy. When Shadow led its people in a massive assault on the enemy command ship, Alex guided human forces to provide perfect support. The battle was fierce and costly, but the alliance between humans and Shadow's people proved unbeatable. The insects were driven off New Eden permanently, their invasion force shattered. In the aftermath, as the colonists began rebuilding their settlement, Alex sat with Shadow on a hill overlooking their new home. The creature had grown even larger since their bonding, and its armor now had streaks of blue that matched Alex's eyes. Children played in the ruins below, human and alien youngsters learning games from each other. Adults of both species worked together to repair the damage and build new structures. It was chaotic and sometimes confusing, but it was also beautiful. "You know," Alex said to Shadow, "when I first came to this planet, I thought I was here to study alien life. I never imagined I'd end up with a best friend who could bench press a truck." Shadow made a sound that Alex had learned to recognize as laughter. The creature gently bumped its massive head against Alex's shoulder in response. Looking up at the alien stars, Alex realized that this was just the beginning. Humanity had found its first true allies among the stars. And it had all started with one man showing kindness to a creature that everyone else saw as a monster. The most dangerous predator on New Eden had become humanity's most loyal protector. In a universe full of unknown threats, there was something comforting about having an 8-foot-tall alien warrior who followed you around like a faithful dog. Even if that dog had claws that could slice through steel and teeth that could bite through metal, some friendships were worth the risk. The battle raged for 3 hours. Shadow and its kind fought with incredible skill against the insect invaders, but the aliens had superior numbers and advanced weapons. Green acid burned through trees and melted rocks where it splashed. The air filled with the sounds of roaring and clicking as two very different species fought for control of the planet. Alex and his team took shelter behind their landing craft, watching the carnage unfold. Richardson was frantically recording everything while Lisa tried to coordinate with the orbital station for evacuation. "Military ships are on their way," Lisa reported. "But they're still 6 hours out." Alex watched Shadow tear through a group of insect warriors with deadly precision. But even the mighty Predator was getting tired. Green acid had burned through parts of its armor, and it was bleeding from several wounds. When the fighting finally ended, the insects had retreated to their ships and taken off. But the victory came at a terrible cost. Many of Shadow's people lay dead or dying in the jungle. Shadow itself was badly wounded, one of its 4 arms hanging useless at its side. Alex did something that surprised everyone, including himself. He grabbed his medical kit and ran toward the injured creature. "Alex, no!" Richardson shouted. "It's too dangerous!" But Alex had made his choice. Shadow had saved his life and protected his team. Now it was his turn to help. Shadow saw him coming and tried to back away. The creature was in pain and confused. In its current state, it might attack without thinking. "Easy," Alex said, in the same calm voice he had used with Jake. "I want to help. Let me see your arm." Shadow's yellow eyes focused on Alex's face. The creature recognized him and slowly stopped backing away. It held out its injured arm with a soft whimper of pain. Alex examined the wound carefully. The acid had burned through the outer armor and damaged the muscle underneath. It was serious but not fatal. He cleaned the wound with antiseptic and wrapped it with bandages from his kit. "There," Alex said when he was finished. "That should help it heal." Shadow looked at the bandage, then at Alex. Very gently, the creature reached out with its good hand and touched Alex's shoulder. It was the same gentle touch as before, but this time it felt different. This time, it felt like friendship. When Colonel Danny Morrison arrived with his military forces, he found Alex sitting beside Shadow under a large tree. The massive predator was resting while Alex took notes about its physiology. They looked like old friends sharing a quiet moment. "Dr. Carter," Morrison called out, "step away from that creature immediately. We're here to contain the xenobiological threat." Alex stood up, but remained between Morrison and Shadow. "There's no threat, Colonel. This creature saved our lives." Morrison was a practical man who had spent his career fighting human enemies. The idea of trusting an alien predator made no sense to him. "That thing is 8 feet tall with claws that can cut through steel. It's a weapon of mass destruction. It's also intelligent, loyal, and capable of forming emotional bonds," Alex replied. "Shadow has shown more compassion than most humans." "I know." To prove his point, Alex sat back down next to Shadow and opened his lunch rations. He ate half of his meal, then offered the rest to the creature. Shadow accepted the food carefully, being extra gentle with its claws to avoid scratching. Dr. Kate Phillips, the xenopsychologist Morrison had brought with him, watched this interaction with growing fascination. "Colonel, I need to run some tests before we make any decisions about containment." Over the next 2 days, Phillips conducted extensive observations of Alex and Shadow's relationship. What she discovered challenged everything humans thought they knew about alien intelligence. Shadow demonstrated problem-solving skills equal to a human child. When Phillips placed colored blocks in different patterns, Shadow could copy the patterns and even create new ones. The creature understood cause and effect, showing genuine distress when Alex pretended to be hurt and relief when he showed he was okay. Most remarkably, Shadow began to learn simple human words. It could not speak, but it clearly understood basics. Commands like sit, stay, and come. It even learned to recognize the difference between Alex's scientific tools, bringing him the scanner when he said scanner and the sample containers when he said samples. "This is unprecedented," Phillips told Morrison. "We're looking at a species with emotional intelligence. It forms attachments, shows empathy, and can learn abstract concepts. In many ways, it's more emotionally developed than some humans." But Morrison remained skeptical until the insect aliens returned. The second attack came without warning. A massive hive ship descended from orbit, larger than anything the humans had seen before. Thousands of the insect warriors poured out, armed, with new weapons that fired concentrated acid streams. Human military technology was impressive, but it was designed to fight other humans. Against an enemy that could burrow through solid rock and spit acid that melted metal, conventional weapons were almost useless. The human forces were being overwhelmed when Shadow did something extraordinary. The creature began making complex vocalizations that carried for miles through the jungle. Its calls were answered by similar sounds from all directions. Within minutes, hundreds of Shadow's people emerged from hidden caves and underground lairs. But they were not just attacking randomly. They moved with military precision, following Shadow's vocal commands like soldiers following their general. Alex realized that Shadow was not just an individual predator. It was a leader, possibly even a general in an ongoing war against the insect invaders. Shadow's been fighting these things for who knows how long, Alex told Morrison as they watched the battle unfold. It knows their weaknesses, their tactics, everything about them. The tide of battle turned when Shadow led a coordinated strike against the hive ship itself. While its warriors kept the insect soldiers busy on the ground, Shadow and a small team of elite fighters scaled the ship's organic walls and attacked its vital systems. The ship crashed in a spectacular explosion that lit up the sky. The surviving insect warriors fled into the jungle, leaderless and disorganized. After the battle, Morrison found Alex tending to Shadow's new wounds. The creature had taken a direct hit from an acid weapon but had kept fighting until the enemy was defeated. I was wrong, Morrison admitted. This creature isn't just intelligent. It's a natural military strategist. With its help, we might actually be able to defend this planet. Shadow looked up at Morrison with those intelligent yellow eyes. For a moment, human and alien regarded each other with mutual respect. The question is, Morrison continued, can we learn to work together? Can humans and Shadow's people become true allies? Alex smiled as Shadow gently nuzzled against his shoulder like an enormous, deadly pet. I think we already have, he said, the distance, they could hear more of Shadow's people calling to each other through the jungle. The sounds were different now, less urgent and angry, almost like they were celebrating. For the first time since humans had arrived on New Eden, the planet felt like it might truly become a home, a place where two very different species could live and work together, protected by the most unlikely friendship in the galaxy. After his arm healed, Alex returned to New Eden with new equipment and a different plan. This time, he would try to establish real contact with the creature. He had started thinking of it as Shadow because of how quietly it moved through the jungle. Alex set up his camp in the same clearing as before. On his first morning back, he found a gift waiting outside his tent. A perfectly preserved flower specimen, still wet with dew, placed carefully on a flat stone. It was a species he had never seen before, with petals that changed color in the light. He placed the flower in his collection kit and made detailed notes. When he looked up, he saw movement in the trees. Just a flash of black armor, but he knew Shadow was watching. Over the following weeks, Alex established a routine. Each morning, he would find new specimens left near his tent. Strange fruits, unusual leaves, even small creatures that had died of natural causes. Shadow was bringing him samples for his research. Alex began leaving gifts in return. He would place his lunch rations on the stone where Shadow left the specimens. The food was always gone by morning. Sometimes Alex caught glimpses of Shadow, examining the packages with those intelligent yellow eyes. The breakthrough came when Alex was studying his equipment one evening. He had spread out his tools on a tarp and was organizing them for the next day's work. When he went to get fresh water from the stream, he left everything exactly as it was. When he returned, the tools had been rearranged. His scanner was placed. next to his sample containers. His camera was positioned where it could see his work area. His notebook was open to the page where he had been drawing pictures of local plants. Shadow had been studying his equipment and had tried to organize it, the same way Alex did. "You understand what I'm doing, don't you?" Alex said to the empty jungle. "You know these are tools for learning." The next day, Alex decided to try an experiment. He sat in his camp and began arranging colored stones in simple patterns. First a circle, then a square, then a triangle. He worked slowly and carefully, knowing Shadow was watching from somewhere nearby. When he finished, Alex moved away from the stones and pretended to study his notes. After an hour, he looked back at the stone pattern. A fourth shape had been added. Not a perfect triangle like his, but close enough to show intelligence and understanding. Alex's heart pounded with excitement. This was proof that Shadow could learn by watching and could create new patterns based on what it had seen. But their peaceful research came to an end when Dr. Richardson discovered what was happening. Alex had been sending regular reports back to the orbital station, but he had not mentioned Shadow. He told his team about the gifts and the arranged stones, but he described them as signs of unknown intelligent life rather than a specific creature. Richardson became suspicious when he reviewed the video files from Alex's helmet camera. The marine biologist was supposed to record everything for scientific analysis, but Richardson noticed strange gaps in the footage and odd camera angles that suggested Alex was hiding something. "I'm coming down there," Richardson told Alex over the radio. "Something's not right about your reports." Alex tried to talk him out of it, but Richardson was already on his way. When the xenobiology expert landed with a full security team, he brought sensors that could detect large life forms. It didn't take long to find Shadow. The creature was bringing Alex his morning specimen when Richardson's team surrounded the camp. Alarms started beeping as the motion sensors detected the massive alien presence. "Don't move," Alex shouted to the security team. "It's not dangerous." But the soldiers had their orders. They raised their weapons and activated their targeting systems. Red laser dots appeared on Shadow's black armor. Shadow's reaction was instant and terrifying. The creature that had been so gentle with Alex transformed into the apex predator it really was. It roared a challenge that shook leaves from the trees. Its claws extended to their full length. Its yellow eyes blazed with fury. "Stand down," Alex yelled, stepping between Shadow and the soldiers. "You're making it feel threatened." Richardson was recording everything with his scanner. "Incredible," he muttered. "The aggression response is immediate. But look at the positioning. It's trying to protect Carter, not attack him." Lisa's voice crackled over the radio from the orbital station. "Alex, we're reading massive seismic activity. Something big is happening down there." The seismic activity was not an earthquake. Through the trees came more creatures like Shadow, dozens of them, moving through the jungle with deadly purpose. They surrounded the human camp, but did not attack. Instead, they watched and waited. Shadow made a series of complex sounds, like a mixture of growls and chirps. The other creatures responded with similar calls. Alex realized he was witnessing some form of communication. "They're talking," he said in amazement. "Shadow is telling them we're not enemies." Richardson lowered his scanner and stared at the ring of predators around them. Each one was easily capable of killing the entire human team. But they remained perfectly still, waiting for some signal from Shadow. "This changes everything," Richardson whispered. "They're not just intelligent. They're organized. They have a social structure." The moment of peace was shattered when alerts started screaming from the orbital station. Lisa's voice came over the radio, tight with panic. "Alex, you need to evacuate immediately. We're detecting incoming ships, multiple vessels, heading straight for the planet, and they're not human." Through his binoculars, Alex could see dark shapes descending from the sky. The ships were organic-looking, like massive insects with wings. As they got closer, he could see that they were carrying the same bug-like creatures that had tried to capture him in the pit. Shadow let out a roar that was different from before. This was not anger or threat. This was a warning, a call to battle. The other creatures around the camp responded with their own calls. Within seconds, they had melted, back into the jungle, vanishing as if they had never been there. But Shadow remained. The massive predator moved to stand beside Alex, its yellow eyes fixed on the approaching ships. For the first time since Alex had met it, Shadow looked afraid. "What are those things?" Richardson asked. Alex remembered the clicking voices from the pit trap. "I think they're the enemy," he said. "And I think Shadow's people have been fighting them for a long time." The first enemy ship landed with a crash that shook the ground. Hundreds of the insect-like beings poured out, their weapons ready and their compound eyes scanning for targets. Shadow looked at Alex one more time, as if memorizing his face. Then the creature charged toward the enemy, roaring a battle cry that echoed through the jungle. The war for New Eden had begun. And somehow, Alex found himself on the same side as the most dangerous predator the planet had ever produced. The creature he had feared was now humanity's only hope for survival. Alex returned to New Eden 3 days later, despite his team's protests. Lisa had begged him to wait for more security. Sam thought he was crazy to go back. Even Jake, lying in his hospital bed, had tried to talk him out of it. "That thing could have killed you," Jake had said. "Just because it didn't attack doesn't mean it won't next time." But Alex couldn't forget those intelligent yellow eyes. As a scientist, he had to know more. This creature was unlike anything humans had ever encountered. If it was truly intelligent, first contact protocols required careful study. He set up a new camp by himself, much smaller than before. Just one tent, basic equipment, and enough food for a week. He kept his radio on at all times so the orbital station could track him. The first day passed quietly. Alex collected samples from the stream and studied the local plant life. Everything seemed normal, but he had the constant feeling that something was watching him. On the second day, he found the first sign. A large tree near his camp had fresh claw marks on its trunk. 4 parallel lines cut deep into the wood. They were exactly the right size and spacing for the creature's claws, but these marks were different from damage made in anger or territorial marking. They were too neat, too careful. Alex measured the marks and took photos. The cuts were at exactly his eye level. It was like the creature was leaving him a message, over. The next few days, more signs appeared. Deep footprints in the soft earth around his camp, always at the same distance. Broken branches that formed a rough circle around his tent. Stones arranged in small piles near the water's edge. Alex began to understand. The creature was marking territory, but not to keep him out. It was creating a boundary to keep other dangers away from him. The proof came on his 5th day alone. Alex was studying a patch of unusual flowers when he heard rustling in the bushes behind him. He turned to see 3 wolf-like creatures emerging from the jungle. They were smaller than earth wolves, but had longer legs and sharper teeth. Their fur was dark green with black stripes. The pack leader growled and showed its fangs. The other, 2, spread out to flank Alex. He was trapped against a steep cliff with nowhere to run. Alex slowly reached for the emergency flare in his belt. If he could create a bright light and loud noise, he might scare them off. But before he could grab it, the pack leader suddenly stopped growling. All 3 wolves lifted their heads and sniffed the air. Their eyes went wide with fear. The leader let out a sharp yelp, and all 3 animals turned and ran back into the jungle as fast as they could. Alex stood there confused until he noticed the smell. It was the same wild scent he had detected during his first encounter with the creature. Something was nearby. He looked around but saw nothing. The jungle seemed empty and quiet, but the wolf pack had clearly detected something that terrified them more than a lone human. That night, Alex heard sounds outside his tent. Heavy footsteps moving in a circle around his camp. The soft scrape of claws on stone. Once he thought he heard breathing just outside the tent wall. He lay still and listened, but felt no fear. Whatever was out there had already had many chances to hurt him. Instead, it seemed to be protecting him. The real test came on his 7th day. Alex was examining some interesting rock formations when the ground gave way beneath his feet. He fell 12 feet into a hidden pit and landed hard on his shoulder. Pain shot through his arm, and he knew something was broken. The pit was deep and narrow with smooth sides. There was no way to climb out. Worse, as his eyes adjusted to the dim light, he saw that the pit was not natural. Someone had dug it and covered it with branches and leaves. It was a trap. Before he could call for help on his radio, he heard voices above him. But they were not human voices. The sounds were like clicking and buzzing, mixed with sharp hisses. 3 faces appeared at the edge of the pit, looking down at him. They were like nothing in Earth's fossil record. Large compound eyes, mandibles that clicked constantly, and bodies covered in brown shell-like armor. They looked like giant insects that had learned to walk upright. One of them pointed at Alex and made a series of rapid clicks. Another held up a weapon that dripped with green liquid. The third began lowering a rope into the pit. Alex pressed himself against the wall and tried to make himself as small as possible. These creatures clearly saw him as prey. The weapon was probably loaded with poison or acid, just as the rope reached the bottom of the pit. Alex heard a sound that made his heart race. It was a roar of pure fury, deeper and more terrifying than anything he had ever heard. The creature burst from the jungle like a force of nature. Its black armor gleamed in the sunlight. Its 4 arms moved with deadly precision. The yellow eyes burned with rage. The insect-like beings never had a chance. The creature's claws swept through them like they were made of paper. Green blood splattered across the rocks. In less than 10 seconds, all 3 attackers were dead. Then, the creature appeared at the edge of the pit, looking down at Alex. Its fierce expression changed instantly. The rage left its eyes, replaced by something that looked almost like concern. It studied Alex's injured arm, then disappeared from view. A few minutes later, a thick vine dropped into the pit. The creature had found something strong enough to pull him out. Alex grabbed the vine with his good arm. He felt himself being lifted slowly and carefully out of the pit. When he reached the top, the creature was waiting for him. Up close, Alex could see details he had missed before. The creature's armor was not just black, but had a deep blue shine, like oil on water. Its claws were retractable, sliding in and out of sheaths in its fingertips. Most surprising of all, its eyes showed clear intelligence and emotion. The creature looked at Alex's broken arm and made a soft sound, almost like a whimper. It seemed upset that he was hurt. "It's okay," Alex said gently. "You saved me. Thank you." The creature tilted its massive head, as if it was trying to understand his words. Then it did something amazing. It reached out with one clawed hand and very gently touched Alex's good shoulder. The touch was so light that Alex barely felt it. For a moment, human and alien stood together in perfect understanding. Then the creature stepped back and faded into the jungle, leaving Alex alone with questions that would change everything humans thought they knew about life among the stars. Alex activated his emergency beacon and waited for rescue. But he knew he would be back. This was just the beginning of something extraordinary. Dr. Alex Carter stepped off the landing ship and took his first breath of alien air. The planet they called New Eden stretched out before him like a green paradise. Tall trees with purple leaves swayed in the warm breeze. Strange flowers bloomed, in colors he had never seen on Earth. The air smelled sweet and clean. "Beautiful place," said Lisa Brooks, the team's communications expert. She adjusted her equipment pack and looked around with wide eyes. "Hard to believe we're the first humans to walk here." Jake Martinez, their security officer, was less impressed. He kept his weapon ready and scanned the jungle with careful eyes. "Pretty places can be the most dangerous," he said. Never trust a planet that looks too good. Dr. Sam Richardson nodded as he set up his mobile lab. Jake's right. My readings show this place has some very large life forms. We need to be careful. Alex smiled and picked up his research kit. As a marine biologist, he had studied dangerous creatures his whole life, but he had never been afraid of them. He understood that most animals only attacked when they felt threatened. The key was to show respect and move slowly. The team set up their base camp in a small clearing near a stream. The water was crystal clear and full of fish-like creatures with silver scales. Alex knelt by the water's edge and watched them swim. They moved in perfect formation like they were dancing. For 2 days, everything went perfectly. Alex collected water samples and studied the strange fish. Lisa established communication with their ship in orbit. Sam analyzed soil samples and plant life. Jake patrolled the camp and kept watch for danger. On the 3rd morning, Alex woke up to the sound of Jake shouting, "Everyone get up! Now!" Alex crawled out of his tent and froze. Standing at the edge of their camp was the largest predator he had ever seen. The creature stood 8 feet tall on powerful legs. Its body was covered in black armor that looked like polished stone. 4 arms ended in claws that gleamed like knives in the morning sun. Its head was massive, with rows of crystal-clear teeth that could bite through metal. The beast's eyes were the strangest part. They were bright yellow and seemed to glow with intelligence. This was not just an animal. This was something that could think. "Nobody move," Jake whispered. He slowly reached for his weapon. "I'm going to try to scare it off." The creature's head turned toward Jake. Its lips pulled back to show more of those terrible teeth. A low growl came from deep in its throat. "Don't," Alex said quietly. "It's not afraid of us. Look at its posture. It's deciding if we're a threat." But Jake was already moving. He raised his weapon and fired a warning shot into the air. The sound echoed through the jungle. Birds flew from the trees in panic. The creature's reaction was instant. It roared and charged toward them at incredible speed. Its claws dug deep grooves in the ground with each step. Jake tried to run but tripped over a fallen log. He hit the ground hard and cried out in pain. His leg was bent at a wrong angle. The bone was broken. The beast was almost on top of him. Its claws were raised and ready to strike. Jake closed his eyes and waited for the end. But Alex did something that surprised everyone, including himself. Instead of running away, he ran toward Jake. He dropped to his knees beside his injured teammate and put his body between Jake and the creature. "Easy," Alex said in a calm voice. He didn't look at the beast. Instead, he focused on Jake's leg. "I'm going to help you. Just stay still." The creature stopped so suddenly that dirt flew up around its feet. It stood frozen just 3 feet away from Alex, its massive head tilted to one side like a confused dog. Alex pulled out his medical kit with steady hands. He had done this many times before, but never with a deadly alien predator watching. He could feel the creature's hot breath on his neck. He could smell its wild scent. But he kept working. "This is going to hurt," Alex told Jake. He began to set the broken bone. Jake bit his lip to keep from screaming. The whole time, Alex spoke in a soft, calm voice. "You're going to be fine. We'll get you back to the ship. The doctors will fix you up good as new." The creature moved closer. Its yellow eyes watched every move Alex made. When Alex was gentle with Jake, the beast seemed to relax. When Jake cried out in pain, the creature made a soft whining sound. After 20 minutes, Alex had Jake's leg in a splint. "There," he said. "That should hold until we get you to the medical bay." Only then did Alex look up at the creature. Their eyes met for the first time. Alex felt something pass between them. Understanding, maybe, or recognition. The beast took a step back, then another. It looked at Alex for a long moment, then turned and walked slowly into the jungle. Within seconds, It had disappeared completely. Lisa and Sam ran over to help with Jake. "That was incredible," Lisa said. "Why didn't it attack?" Alex watched the spot where the creature had vanished. "I don't think it wanted to hurt us," he said. "I think it was just protecting its territory." They carried Jake back to the landing ship and flew him up to the medical station in orbit. The doctor said he would recover completely, but Alex couldn't stop thinking about those yellow eyes and the way the creature had watched him care for his friend. That night, as Alex tried to sleep in his tent, he felt like something was watching him from the dark jungle. But instead of fear, he felt a strange sense of safety, like something out there was standing guard.